Sunday showdown between the Denver Broncos and Green Bay Packers is almost here. And for the Broncos, the biggest key will be running the football against this Packers defense.
You are Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, Broncos Country. Welcome into another episode of Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Locked On Podcast Network is now the #1 sports podcast network in the country. All thanks to all you everydayers out there in Broncos Country. Thanks for tuning in, however you choose to do so, making us your first listen of the day. I'm Cody Roark, credentialed Broncos reporter for Mile High Sports, joined as always by Sayre Bedinger, the longtime site expert over there, predominantlyorange.com. We got a lot to break down here on our final game preview of Sunday's matchup between the Denver Broncos and the Green Bay Packers. We'll go through the Broncos having an open spot on the active roster. How might they fill that ahead of Sunday's matchup against the Packers? We'll go through several key options for you. Plus, we'll tell you why RJ Harvey and Marvin Mims are key players to watch if Denver's hoping to win here on Sunday. We'll tell you why the run game is going to be important for the Broncos to sustain drives and ultimately take time away from Jordan Love and that Packers offense here on today's episode of the show. Sayre, let's get into it, my friend. Obviously, the Broncos have one more practice here this afternoon. We'll be out there, but so far, healthy throughout the week. Denver made an interesting move on Thursday after practice. They waived veteran tight end Marcedes Lewis, and that now opened up a spot here on the active roster. And I think everybody's wondering right now, what is Denver going to do with that flexibility? And I'm curious for your thoughts, because as it stands today, before Friday's practice, it's trending more and more likely that wide receiver Pat Bryant is not going to play here this week.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what the Broncos do here, Cody, because obviously Ben Powers returned to the practice field this week. They opened up his window, so it kind of seems like he may be the most logical fit, although at the same time, look, there's a number of other players on the practice squad or on injured reserve who could make some sense for this team. Now, Ben Powers, to me, is the low-hanging fruit here. You open up that roster spot. I think it was kind of procedural to get Marcedes Lewis onto the practice squad and make sure you have all that figured out. So if the goal is to get Marcedes onto the practice squad, Cody, that leads me to believe that this could be a practice squad promotion. And maybe just because we know this news just came out, maybe Sam Ehlinger, you go ahead and give him that promotion for another week, because I know they've been kind of giving him those game checks and things like that. So maybe that's the move. I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts here? Because I think it seems too easy that it's Ben Powers, right? Because why cut Marcedes Lewis with the hopes of bringing him back to the practice squad when you have a full practice squad at this point?
Yeah, and here's the challenge, too. I mean, Denver's done some fluctuating, with Marquez Cox a little bit. They've brought him on and off the practice squad. He's kind of been this move-around piece. I'm very curious. Like, to me, I think it's going to be Ben Powers. And the reason why is, like, okay, his 21-day window was open. At some point within the 21 days, I do know they plan on bringing him back. So you're going to have to make a roster move if you do have 53 players on your active as is. So that spot is already open. He's been doing more. He did more on Thursday when we were there watching practice. And I really enjoy just seeing him get back to it. Like, he's moving around well. I think the biggest question is how can he continue to, strengthen the bicep when you get cut open and you have to have surgery? It's a lot about strengthening it, but it's different when you go back from, okay, lifting weights to I'm back on the football field where I'm engaging tight within the frame. Sometimes I'm stretching out. How does his bicep hold up with that? There's that. I think some people have floated out, obviously, with Pat Bryant trending towards not playing here in Sunday's game. There's been a lot of talk about, could the Broncos promote a wide receiver? Well, you have Elijah Moore, who you signed a couple of weeks ago here on the practice squad. You have A.T. Perry. And if Bryant can't go, could the Broncos rely on that? I don't think that's going to be the move. It doesn't make sense right now for them to bring a practice squad wide receiver to the 53, because at least with guys like Elijah Moore, A.T. Perry, you still have 3 game day elevations available that gives you flexibility. So you could essentially say, hey, we're going to promote Elijah Moore from the practice squad to the game day roster for Sunday's game. Boom, there we go. Now, after that, you have 2 more utilizations of that versus just bringing him onto the 53. I just don't see that being the case. And then, obviously, Denver this past week, they added running back Sincere McCormick, former Las Vegas Raiders running back, to the practice squad. Bigger, bulkier back, but Denver doesn't need to do that because they could also elevate him from the practice squad. So, Sayre, it is either Ben Powers or I agree with you. It could be Sam Ehlinger in a sense of getting him paid. There's a reason that he decided to stay because the Indianapolis Colts, who now have Phillip Rivers as their quarterback this week, folks. Yes, Phillip Rivers, Filthy Phil. Ehlinger had interest from the Colts. The Colts wanted him to come back, and he said, nah, I'm going to stay here in Denver. The grass is greener in the Mile High City. I find it to be interesting.
I do too. I was trying to do, Cody, while you were saying that about Phillip Rivers, I was trying to do my best Phillip Rivers face. You know, he's got all, if you Google Phillip Rivers' name, you know, you're going to find all the faces. But I think another name that's been floated out too is Jordan Turner, the linebacker who's out of promotions as well. So I think the Broncos do have some options here. And I think that, you know, with Garrett Wallow getting claimed off waivers, I was looking through some of the team's practice photos from the last couple of weeks. It's kind of weird that, you know, Garrett Wallow pops up in a practice photo from just last week, and now he's like already been with the 49ers for a handful of days. So maybe that's the move there in terms of the roster gymnastics that are being played right now. So we'll kind of see, but I know maybe fans don't know this. Nate Adkins was not on injured reserve. So that's not the situation here for the Broncos, is having to promote Nate Adkins. So I think that it's really a matter of, okay, you got to maybe a flexible spot for a week. This is an opportunity to give Sam Ehlinger a, you know, regular season 53-man roster game check, or maybe you reward Jordan Turner for the work that he's done on his promotions. So you got opportunities to do that. We know Sean Payton loves to do that, but I wouldn't be surprised either way, Cody, if Elijah Moore does get called up, because I mean, this is a guy who had 8 catches for 111 yards against the Broncos about a year ago at this time. So he's the most proven guy on their practice squad, I think, out of any player that they have, other than Mercedes Lewis when he comes back to the practice squad. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer week to get Elijah Moore's feet wet. I know you have other players that you want to get involved in the offense, which we'll continue to talk about today, as you know, you teased Marvin Mims being a player to watch. I think that's going to be a big deal, but Elijah Moore kind of makes sense for this week if you want to get another body and give the Packers somebody else that they really have to account for.
Yeah, and Denver's got good flexibility right now, too. I even think about this as well. I forget he's on the 53-man roster, Sayre, but even Jared Christian, the offensive tackle, if the Broncos have to make another move to free up a spot, he's the most likely guy to kind of be released or waived at that point. You know, with Mercedes Lewis, the fact that he's out of practice squad elevations, but they want to bring him back to the practice squad, that's more of a veteran leadership presence type of role for him. But also in the event, like you said, Nate Adkins is coming back from a knee. How he responds, you know, returning to the field, I think will be very, very important to monitor here. So it's kind of like a, hey, we have this break in case of emergency thing. Whereas if you do suffer an injury at the position and you have to put someone on IR, hopefully that's not the case, right? But you do have a backup plan in a veteran like Mercedes Lewis. I liked what we saw from him last week against the Raiders and Max Crosby kind of being that big move around piece. So the fact that he's kind of this procedural move for the Broncos on Thursday was a little bit of a surprise to me, considering that Denver's going to have to go against that defensive line and obviously Micah Parsons, who you want to try to attribute as much size to be able to negate his impact as much as you can. But overall, Denver's got flexibility with their choices here, and we'll find out here, obviously, for Friday's practice. And look, Broncos Country, stay posted. Once we get the final injury report, if Pat Bryant plays or not, you can get a little quick bonus episode, Locked On Broncos, here today once we have all that information here. But coming up next, Broncos Country, we're going to get into our players to watch, and I'm going to tell you why RJ Harvey is going to have a big game this week against the Packers. And Sarah's going to tell you why Marvin Mims could be the equalizer this week. You'll get that here on today's episode of the show. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at ZocDoc. And guys, it's 2025. It's almost 2026. And those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, they're over. No more walking it off for 6 months. No more pretending that the weird shoulder stiffness that you have is just from sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously, and ZocDoc makes that easier than ever, because staying healthy is more than just hitting the gym or eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off. And using ZocDoc makes scheduling easier. You can search for an in-network doctors and book right inside of the app. You get real appointment times that are listed, including same-day visits, and there's no more back-and-forth phone calls or waiting weeks to be seen. Take care of your health and prioritize that here today. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and get the care you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over there at Car Gurus, and car shopping should feel exciting, folks. It shouldn't be confusing. And with Car Gurus, you get the confidence that you deserve because they cut through all the noise so you can actually see the best deals on the cars that you want. Because when it comes to a big purchase, you deserve the best deal. And Car Gurus makes that whole process simple by giving you real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anyone else, so you can shop the way that you want. Use Car Gurus deal ratings to compare cars quickly without having to guess whether the price is fair. The in-depth vehicle reviews help you understand what ownership actually looks like, not just how the car looks online. And having verified dealerships and upfront pricing makes the whole thing feel transparent and, more importantly, stress-free. Car Gurus connects you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process. With over 4 million listings, the most of any major online automotive marketplace, you'll always find the best deal. Shop the way you want with the tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easy. Buy or sell your next car today at cargurus.com. That's CARGURUS.com, cargurus.com.
It's got to be another big week for running back RJ Harvey, but also will Sean Payton deliver on his promise to get Marvin Mims Jr. more involved in the offense? We're talking players to watch both on offense and on defense, so I guess you're going to have to stay tuned here to find out who Cody and I picked for the defensive side of the ball. But Broncos Country, quickly want to say thank you to every single one of you out there that makes Locked On Broncos your first listen of the day every single day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. And you know what? Cody and I know you guys, we're diehard Broncos fans, right? We want to have all day access every single day. So if you haven't done so already, join the Everydayer Club. Man, Cody and I, we have some great stuff for you. Bonus episodes of the show, all 22 breakdowns, and a lot more stuff. I mean, you get a discount on Locked On merch. You get to have special episodes that you don't get normally on the show. It's great stuff. And Cody and I are working on figuring out, hey, what does that look like every single day to bring all of you that bonus coverage that'll make it worth it? We're going to make it worth your while. So there's a link in the show notes for you. If you haven't done that already, go ahead and do that today. Cody, let's talk about players to watch because RJ Harvey, he's been on a tear as of late. It's funny because I think that the perception from Broncos Country was like it's kind of been a up and down rookie year from RJ Harvey, right? We've seen the explosive plays, we've seen the touchdowns, but we haven't necessarily seen the elongated success running the football. We finally saw that last week, but I thought it was great. I saw a little post from somebody on Twitter. I don't even remember who it was, but they had a picture of RJ Harvey, not a Broncos fan, and they just said, this is my 2025 fantasy football league winner. So the perception of RJ Harvey is very different from the outside looking in. Fantasy players are like, dude, this guy won me my league this year, or could. And Broncos fans are like, is he really an RB1? Tell me why you have him as your offensive player to watch this week.
Yeah, look, I think that he's starting to get more comfortable and getting more in rhythm since taking over for J.K. Dobbins. Look, it's tough. Like the Broncos' run game was, I think, effective when they had a system in place with J.K. and then R.J. coming in his role. I really believe that those two guys together, it was a dynamic duo, right? So when J.K. goes down, it's like, all right, now you have to accelerate RJ Harvey's learning curve a little bit. You're going to have to throw a little bit more at him, which he has tackled really well. I will say this, watching him at practice, Coach Lou Ianni has done such a tremendous job working with this group of guys because it's like, all right, hey, you lose a veteran guy who's got so much experience and knowledge inside that room. So how do you adjust? RJ has picked it up very quickly from people inside the building that I've talked to. They say they believe that we have yet to see just the best version of RJ, but every week they're saying, hey, we're getting a little bit more. We're getting a little bit more here. And I'll say maybe a notable improvement has been from watching the film, his pass protection, right? And that was one of the things, hey, as a rookie, like, how do you navigate learning how to do this or how to get better at this? It's more reps, more experience. And he's done a really, really good job stepping in, picking up A-gap blitzes or backside. Like I think his communication, his eyes, and those situations have been big. But what we've seen, I think, over the course of the last few weeks with the Broncos having this north-south downhill approach versus just, hey, we're going to just focus on trying to get him to the outside. RJ has seen the blocks open up inside. I mean, for all the everydayers out there that have the all access, we even did a breakdown on the all 22 of RJ Harvey's in between the tackle runs where he's running for 15 yards on first down. He's running for 8 yards on first down, 6 yards on first down. This is the formula this week against the Green Bay Packers. You want to try to counter Micah Parsons? You know what you do to do that, so where he's not getting after Bo Nix? You run the football. So for me, can RJ continue to stack things? 9 touchdowns for him this season altogether, 5 on the ground, 4 in the air. Can he add even more to his repertoire this weekend? That's why RJ is my player to watch against Green Bay.
I love it. And I think he can add to that number this weekend, Cody. I think he will add to that number. I think Sean Payton is very motivated to make that, make fetch happen with RJ Harvey. He wants to give him the Joker wings, and I think he's going to. I think this season is going to prove that RJ can be running back 1 going forward. But we have the same questions every single year for the first 3 years of Marvin Mims Jr.'s career. We talked about it earlier this week on the show as Sean Payton brought it up himself at his Monday media availability, talking about we need to get Marvin Mims Jr. the ball more, especially after watching that punt return touchdown against the Raiders. Sean was like, hey, the staff, we just got done watching it. We're trying to figure out ways to get this guy the ball. It feels like the Broncos have this sort of epiphany or whatever you want to call it every year with Marvin Mims. And we're sitting here all year saying, why is he not getting the ball more? Why are they not giving him more looks? I was watching some of the all 22 stuff as well, Cody, and I noticed that on a particular play, Marvin Mims had a wide open, and I know the Broncos, they wanted to kind of beat the Raiders with the short passing game, take what the defense gives you, things like that. But I think on one particular play, it was in or close to the red zone. Marvin was wide open on a, I don't know if it was like a, slot fade or what it was, but he was playing from the slot and he was going towards the left corner of the end zone, wide open if the Broncos wanted to try and hit it. And they just did not go for it, which is totally fine. I think they picked up the first down anyway. But the point being, Marvin Mims' involvement this week, I think we're going to see a concerted effort to get him the football and push the ball vertically, which the Broncos really haven't done a lot of this season.
One, especially if Pat Bryant is unable to go this week, you need to be able to spread that out to somebody else, right? Like, look, Troy Franklin, we know is going to get his targets. Cortland Sutton's going to see a lot of attention from this Packers defense, and I'm sure he's going to get his targets as well. But if they try to take him away, this is really where you need other guys to step up. Now, so much of Denver's wide receiver core, I feel like, as we've seen over the last handful of weeks, their personnel and the way they rotate them in, specifically even at tight end, is all matchup contingent. Like, what personnel are the Broncos facing? Like, Sean talks about this all the time. The personnel on the field gives him an indicator as to like what personnel he's going to bring on the field, what he wants to do from a game planning, a matchup standpoint, versus them just going out there and say, hey, Marvin, we know you're the fastest guy on the field. Go beat this guy. Like, I wish it was that easy, right? And certainly I think if you talk to Marvin, you talk to even Sean himself, he'll even say the same exact thing there. So I'm curious to see what matchups the Broncos try to exploit here in the passing game against the Packers. And when you have a guy like Micah Parsons trying to get after you, got guys like Rashawn Gary on the D-line, it's very, very interesting to see the approach. So we'll figure that out here, obviously, on Sunday. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Sayre, I'm going to go with Pat Surtain here because I think that the Broncos matchup defensively against this Packers offense, all the wide receivers that they have, I couldn't think in my head, I was like, is PS2 going to go against Christian Watson primarily, or is he going to guard Romeo Doubs? Because I think, 2023, I think it was Sean's first year. PS2 lined up against Doubs for a majority of the game, got some reps on Watson, but now I think that room is significantly better than what it was in 2023. I think it's better now. Christian Watson, in my opinion, is probably the most dangerous guy there. So I think PS2, him trying to lock up, obviously, one of Jordan Love's favorite targets is probably going to be the biggest key for me in terms of a matchup standpoint. Defensively, who do you got?
I've got Dre Greenlaw, Cody, and because of what you said, I think that underneath coverage and playing the short intermediate passing game is going to be critical because Christian Watson is such a threat and could carry Pat Surtain deep down the field for a good chunk of this game. Your other defensive players are going to have to be on point when it comes to that underneath coverage and making sure that the Packers aren't taking advantage of the fact that Pat Surtain is running with Christian Watson. Dre Greenlaw, and I guess an honorable mention, Talanoa Hufanga, those guys have had some epic battles with the Packers over the past handful of years, right? I mean, especially in the playoffs, they've kind of been at each other's throats a little bit. I think the 49ers had kind of been the Packers' kryptonite, and maybe Dre Greenlaw is the boogeyman for this Packers offense, right? So we know because Vance Joseph said it, that he's still on a bit of a pitch count here, which is totally fine. But let's see Dre Greenlaw really maximize those snaps this week. I think he's going to make a game-changing play against the Packers here in Week 15.
I like that. In Broncos country, make sure you send in your players to watch on offense and defense. You want to throw a special teams one in there? Certainly you can, but make sure you let us know here on today's episode show. But coming up next, Broncos country, as we jump into the fourth quarter of today's episode of the show, we are going to tell you why the Broncos have to key in. If they want to win on Sunday, the run game has to be the important focal point. Plus, they're also going to have to figure out how to force Jordan Love to throw an inaccurate pass, which is a tough challenge. But the Broncos, they'll be ready for it. We'll break it all down here on today's episode of the show. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Prize Picks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports because everything is on. You got bowl games, you got big basketball matchups, you got playoff pushes happening around the National Football League, and it's all happening at once. And there's no better place to get on the action than Prize Picks. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is over at Prize Picks, because Prize Picks, they are the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2-player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Prize Picks, they've also added a layer of extra excitement for the holiday sports schedule, and they have a new stacks feature, which lets you choose the same player up to 3 times in one lineup, like more on a quarterback's passing yards, touchdowns, and rushing yards. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over there at Doer, and the holidays are here. And this year, I'm not stressing about what to wear because I'll be wearing my Doer jeans. I got a holiday party that I got to go to this week, and I can't wait to look nice in my pair of Doer jeans because Doer's denim and lifestyle apparel is engineered for movement and versatility. Whether you're on the go traveling, whether you're lounging at home, or you're going to a nice party like me, you have flexibility because Doer has the most comfortable fabric that you will ever wear. Doer, they invented the original performance denim, and they give us the best of both worlds, combining classic jeans wear style with the kind of comfort and performance that you get from athletic wear. It's designed to look great and stay comfortable all day long, all year round. It's stretchy without looking stretchy, and it's time for you to experience the comfort of Doer. I know you'll love these. Pick up a pair for yourself or for that special someone as an amazing holiday gift. And check out the Doer store here in Denver at 2621 Larimer Street. Mention my promo code LOCKEDONDenver in store to get 15% off your first order, or check them out online at shopduer.com/LockedOnDenver for 15% off. That's shopduer.com/LockedOnDenver. If the Denver Broncos are going to win on Sunday against the Green Bay Packers, the run game is going to be the key here. And we talked about RJ Harvey as one of these players to watch, but the overall totality of Bo Nix using his legs, RJ Harvey on the ground, and the contributions from guys like Jaleel McLaughlin and Tyler Bidet, Adam Prentice too, we're going to throw him in there, are going to be important if the Broncos hope to win. Thanks once again, Broncos Country, for tuning in, making us your first listen, however you choose to do so. We appreciate you so much. Sayre, let's get into our keys to victory here for Denver. I think offensively, one of the bigger ones, as I've talked about, is the run game has to continue to roll here. I felt like the last couple of weeks against the Commanders, felt like it was pretty solid. Really, against the Raiders, it's what controlled the time of possession, right? This is the formula, in my opinion. You want to keep a quarterback like Jordan Love, who we'll talk about here in a minute, off the field. Well, you do it by sustaining long drives. I mean, once again, Denver last week, 3 drives of double-digit plays and nearly 10 minutes time of possession to finish the game with 39 minutes. TOP is dominating fashion, and it neutralized, I would say, a little bit of what Max Crosby wanted to do. Well, guess who the Packers have on the defensive side of the ball? They got Micah Parsons. So Denver has to find a way to run the football effectively, or else it plays into the hands of the Packers being able to send Micah Parsons in that pass rush after Bo Nix.
It absolutely does. I mean, Cody, I've been graduated from college since 2012, but I'm pretty sure I still remember this thing called correlation and causation, or correlation equals causation, or whatever you want to call it. Somebody in the comments can call me out if I'm wrong about this, but I want to point something out, that the Packers, when they give up a lot of rushing yards, they do not do well in the games that they play. So in the first 6 games of the season, get this, they allowed 100 or more yards rushing in just one game. And it happened to be their tie against the Dallas Cowboys when they gave up 40 points. In the last 7 games that they've played, Cody, they have only not given up 100+ rushing yards in 1 game. That was a win against the Minnesota Vikings. Otherwise, in a loss to the Panthers, they gave up 163 rushing yards. In a near disaster against the New York Giants that required some pretty incredible throws to get the job done, they gave up over 100 rushing yards. And for the Broncos, on the opposite side of things, do you want to know something really interesting? The most dominating games the Broncos have had offensively this season, what games come to mind? The Cincinnati Bengals game, 28-3, right? The Dallas Cowboys game, 44-24. And obviously this Raiders game that we just played, which was 24-7 before a couple of garbage time points by the Raiders there. Do you want to guess which games the Broncos have had their most rushing yards this season? I'll give you a quick guess. You can look it up yourself. It's those 3 games. So it's correlation equals causation, right? When we talk about the running game being such a big factor against the Packers here, and they have been more susceptible giving up runs. They gave up 138 yards to the Bears. Going into that Bears game, they had given up the 5th most rushing yards for first downs in terms of defenses in the NFL for a 3-game stretch. So the Packers, they've been susceptible on the run, even though their run game or run defense right now is ranked inside the top 10. They've been more susceptible in this kind of second half of the season so far.
I feel like based on last week, right? Sean Payton said the first time the Broncos played the Raiders, he came out of that game saying we had an awful game plan, right? And the second time around that they played them, and against Max Crosby, for that, they were trying to account for him. I don't know if folks saw the Inside the NFL like sound bites there, but Sean was going up to Max Crosby talking about we had this in to try to counter you, and like, can you do that with Micah Parsons? I think so, but I also think you have to have some respect there for linebackers like Quay Walker, Rashawn Gary on the defensive line. I think they have safeties that come up and play well, not only against the pass, but also against the run. So for me, this is going to require the Broncos' best effort, big on big. You got to win some one-on-ones. You got to win your double teams. And I do feel like over the course of the last couple of weeks, Sayre, the offensive line for Denver has gotten better. And I'd say in terms of consistency, and maybe this is just mainly highlighting Luke Wattenberg. I don't know if getting paid was what did it for him, but Luke Wattenberg, as of late, has been playing really well. I know he's been on the subject of some criticism, especially from us, like, in terms of his snaps or like missing a block. But I feel like as of late, we've started to see a little bit more consistency from him. Maybe the payday was the motivator here, but the Broncos, they have a stable of horses at the running back position. And I imagine trying to control the time of possession and sustain drives is the key that Sean Payton's probably going to try to use this week against the Green Bay Packers. I think a big part of that too is trying to keep Jordan Love off the field, right? Not to say that Jordan Love is this, superhero quarterback that's just, unbelievable. You got to figure out, he can't touch the field or else it's over. Like, you don't get that vibe. Jordan Love is a very good quarterback. Let me be very, very clear about that. But he's had some up and downs this season, but he's still playing at a high level. We've talked about all the wide receivers that they have. Certainly we'll find out if Josh Jacobs is playing this week. We'll get that officially on Friday. But for me, it's keeping him off the field, Sayre, because he is efficient. His passer rating is very good. His completion percentage is very good. But I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into some of the numbers here, according to our friends over there at True Media. Jordan Love, when you look at some of the charts, the heat maps, he thrives throwing to his right side. So Denver's defensive left side, his right side. I got some numbers that give us his completion percentage in these areas and maybe where they may try to attack. Behind the line of scrimmage, right? He inside the numbers when throwing to the right side, inside the numbers behind the line of scrimmage, just be 0 to 5 yards. 92.6% completion percentage. Outside the numbers, behind the line of scrimmage, 83.3%. But where things get tricky, and this is where the accuracy factor comes in, and this is what makes Jordan Love dangerous, from 0 to 10 yards, right? Inside the numbers, which is, once again, I would say inside the numbers next to the hash, in this little tight area where usually your slot will line up there. 90% completion percentage from 0 to 10 yards inside the numbers. Outside the numbers, 83.9%. So if anything, you can expect that the Packers are going to take some shots downfield, but a lot of Jordan Love's game is trying to attack those inside windows there in the passing game. I think that's going to be big. From 10 to 20 yards, inside the numbers, 71.4% completion percentage, which is very good. Like, we were talking about 90s just a second ago, but from 10 to 20 yards, a 71.4 completion percentage inside the numbers is very, very good. Outside the numbers, even better, 75%. So he will attack almost every blade of grass, every different window you can think of. That's why I think the Broncos pass rush has to get home this week, and you can't have any coverage miscommunications because Jordan Love certainly will make you pay for it.
He will, and you provided us the hard numbers to prove that. Let me provide some of the intangibles, right? Jordan Love has this thing, Cody, over the last 3 seasons now, where during the Toyota-thon promotion that Toyota puts on, apparently, I got some inside info on this. Apparently, during Toyota-thon, Jordan Love is absolutely unstoppable, and the numbers back it up, right? It's even to the point that he's started, I think he was wearing a Toyota jacket the other day. He's embracing it. The Packers fan base is embracing it. So you got to have the, if there's an unstoppable force, you got to have an immovable object when it comes to the intangible factors in the game. If Toyota-thon is in the Packers' favor, then the Mile High Magic has to be Mile High Magicking for the Denver Broncos on Sunday, where they've obviously won 10 straight games, right? And Sean Payton has talked about it multiple times. He has found how big of an asset the noise is in that stadium. When the Broncos are playing good football, that fan base gets obscenely loud, and it does affect the other team. And it's the altitude, it's the noise, it's the inability to communicate. When you've called multiple plays, you get up to the line of scrimmage, your guys can't hear you, they don't know exactly what's going on, miscommunication, missed kicks, all the sort of weird, Bermuda Triangle type stuff that happens when teams come to the Mile High City. If Toyota-thon is in Jordan Love's favor, the Mile High Magic, that being in the Broncos' favor, that has to be the immovable object in this case, Cody. So we've got the tangibles, the data that proves, hey, Jordan Love's probably playing MVP caliber football at this point in the season. But the Broncos, I mean, when you come to Denver, as Aaron Rodgers found out 10 years ago, and so many things have been paralleling that 2015 season, as Aaron Rodgers found out, I mean, shoot, not even Toyota-thon going to be able to help you when you come to the Mile High City. So hopefully that Mile High Magic does its thing on Sunday.
Can the Broncos defense dial all the way back to 2015 and pull out a similar game plan against the Packers this week by getting after Jordan Love? Intercepting passes is going to be key here if Denver is going to walk away from Sunday's game with a victory. It's the best game, in my opinion, that's on the schedule this week around the entire NFL. It's a shame this isn't a primetime game, but you know what? We'll take the afternoon primetime slot there on CBS, Broncos Country. One thing you can get is you're going to get Sayre and myself on a post-game show, plus you get the Broncos squad show as well with us reacting to the outcome of Sunday's game. Make sure you check out the Everyday All Access program if you haven't done so already. Once again, you're going to get all 22 film reviews. If that's something that you want more of, you still get the daily free show here, Locked On Broncos every day. But if you want more Locked On Broncos exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else, make sure you become an Everydayer. Join the Everydayer Club, LockedOnBroncos.supercast.com. It's also in our show notes below. But Broncos Country, we will see you after the game on Sunday. Lock in and no pack no.